Hey y'all, welcome to Parker's Reef. On today's episode, we're going to do a tour of Shan's picture perfect Peninsula Cade. Alright, thank you for joining me on another episode of Parker's Reef, and I am super excited to say that yes, today we have yet another tank tour. I've been putting in the hard yards of late to bring as many tank tours as possible to you guys because I listen to my viewers and you guys have told me they are some of the videos you enjoy the most. And today I am sure you are in for a treat because Shan's Cade 1800 Peninsula is, for lack of better words, a picture perfect example of how to build a peninsula. He has a mixed reef with all sorts of beautiful corals and fish in it and a really nice layout of a very strong infrastructure to support that system. Plus we'll get a little sneak peek into a little expansion into the reefing world in his house, which is a nice little bit of fun. So without any further ado, let's roll the footage and check out Shan's picture perfect Cade Peninsula. Alright, I am here with Shan, who's got this incredible Cade Peninsula system set up here in this awesome man cave. Firstly, thank you so much for having us here and allowing us to film your absolute pride and joy. And, well, next, can you tell us about your tank, man? How has this happened? How long has it been running for?
Oh, thanks, Sam. Humbled that you'd be here today, and yeah, we can share some banter about the tank.
You bet.
Look, I've been in and out of the hobby for, I guess, about 15 years or so.
Yes.
I started off, as most people do, with a couple of small all-in-one nanos.
Yes.
But yeah, to tell you the truth, I was considering getting out of the hobby, but I was inspired by your dream reef tank build.
You're kidding me.
So yeah, I've always wanted a Peninsula tank, so I figured, look, you know, let's go for it. So the old tank was sort of located on that far wall there. Okay, yep, and some of the livestock came over, so it was more about finding a plan on how we could sort of have the two systems going together.
Definitely.
So the tank, I started the build, got the tank delivered Christmas 21.
Okay, yep. So it's coming up on what?
Just about 2 years end of this year. So yeah, wow. 2 years this Christmas. So I had some of the equipment and things roll in. So yeah, Christmas, that was a good Christmas. A lot of goodies coming that year. But yeah, sort of marked out that this location would be best for it while the other tank continued. Yes. And then I had to set up sort of the water parameter systems, as we'll talk about shortly. Sure. And then sure, you know, because it wasn't a whole new cycle for this tank, and then slowly transition things into this system, and then the old system went, and then here we are now. Yeah, right. Now it's obviously a Cade Peninsula. What size peninsula is this one? This is a Cade 1800. 1800, so I believe that's 6-foot peninsula. Yeah, the peninsulas always look bigger. They do. I could have sworn you were going to say this is 2100, but the peninsula always ends up looking like one size bigger than it is. It's, well, when I was deciding, it was sort of deciding between the 1500 and the 1800. Yes. The difference in length, I believe, was only 30 centimeters, so about a foot. But I think the big difference is the width. So if I'm not mistaken, I think this is 800 wide. It does have a presence in its width. Yeah, which really gives that depth in aquascaping and yeah, sort of once you lay it out and you measure it out, it was almost a no-brainer to go with the bigger size, and I'm glad that I did. Yeah. Because I feel like I need a bigger tank again now because this is starting to fill up. It's definitely pretty full for what's like a 2-year mark. I know you transferred some of the stuff across, but it looks like it's been running for 10 years. The way things have grown in there, it's been beautifully scaped and just coral placement second to none. But thank you. Yeah, thank you. No, we can talk about my thoughts on that later. But I mean, look, I've still got plans for it still to go. It's relatively young. Yeah, nice. Nice. But look, really happy with the Cade tanks. Yes. Also, I should add, you know, really happy with the support as well from Adam and the team. I think one thing that sets Cade apart is just the excellent customer support. Yes. And now there's a growing community of Cade owners out there, and you know, thoughts can be shared. But the product continues to be refined and made better, and I guess I've added a little bit of my own thoughts on this particular system itself. But as a package, once you look at the quality of the glass, the cabinet, the customization possibilities, some of the features like the integrated power management system, the plumbing, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So much so I've got another one which we can talk about. It's more a nano, a smaller tank. But yeah, I do really like the Cade brand. In comparison to some other offerings out there. Oh, and one of the standout features, particularly for something this size, I think
off camera you were mentioning this is around 2.5 tons, something like that.
Yes.
And the fact that Cade's come completely assembled. You got 2 boxes, you lift the tank out of one box, put it on top of the stand, which has already got the sump in place, attach the pre-glued plumbing in place and fill it with water, which I don't know what you're like with flat packs, but I get nervous sitting on a flat pack chair, let alone putting 2.5 tons on it, you know.
Well, following your build, you know, when you had the cabinet fabricated and made, yes, and the cabinetry, then the tank, and I mean, that process itself was, you know, a number of months.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And just, especially if you don't have a lot of time to dedicate for that sort of stuff, you know,
yes,
it's one small miscalculation can lead to
for sure
a whole disaster. And so knowing you've got a really good foundational system to start with, it's a great start. And again, just really like the look of the tank. Now I know they're available in white as well.
Yes.
So if I had my time again, I would probably choose the white.
Okay.
Because yeah, I just think it looks nice. I probably would have looked nicer in the man cave. Black tends to show up a little bit more like salt creep and things like that.
Yeah,
and that glass is harder to keep clean. But no, that's not to say I'm unhappy with it. It's it's been a good tank for me, even though it's relatively young.
Definitely young, yeah, young despite its appearance. Now, all right, so we've touched on it. It's a Cade 1800 Peninsula. Can you run us through some of the equipment that's powering this system? Maybe starting from the top. I can see.
We can start from the top. So so I run 4 Radeon G5 Blues.
Yes.
My previous tank had Radeon 3 Pros.
Yes.
And yeah, I've always been just a huge advocate for LED lights.
Yes.
I think they're great. They're power efficient. Like the color of the Radeons, and they've just been bulletproof for me.
Yes.
So at one point I did have supplementary Kessel lights here as well. You can sort of see the lock line fittings again.
Oh yeah,
straight from your channel. Yeah. So I had 4 Kessels on this as well, which is supplementing the lighting. They were just Tuna Blues. I think A360Xs, I think they're called.
Yes.
But again, they were just chewing a lot of power, not really giving a lot of power. I don't think power was ever an issue with these lights there.
No,
I mean, you could probably get away with 3.
Yeah.
And when I was contemplating the fixture, I was thinking about the Philips Coral Care.
Yep.
But I went with the Radeons because they were a bit lighter, and this is sort of what I had imagined for the mounting system. I wanted, because it's a rimless tank, I wanted you know, something that's not going to be too intrusive with way of wires and size, but also getting in and out of the tank as well.
Yep.
So I went with just a modular T slot system, T extruded aluminium, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So there's a local shop there. Yeah, it's come really well. So they're mounted just with the slides,
yes,
and then there's the nut and bolt fixtures just go through there. So
perfect.
It also ended up being reasonably cost effective for a mount.
Yep.
But it also ticked a lot of boxes for me. There's some adjustability in the height built into this column here.
Very nice.
But also I really like the idea of being able to run all the cables through the extruded aluminium so it remains sleek and hidden.
Super tidy.
I could probably run just the cantilever because the lights are pretty light.
Yes.
But I just added this thin cable just to suspend it, and we can really get it level. And
it's that thin, you can barely see it there. And it just gives you that little bit of peace of mind, I guess, that, you know, should you accidentally put some weight on here or something. Oh, hang on, I should point where I'm facing. If you accidentally put some weight on here when you're working on the tank, that you're not going to bend the aluminium and put your significant investment of Radeons into the water.
Well, even if we went for Coral Care or something in the future, which are a heavier fixture, at least there's sort of some upgradability built into the mount. But you know, the Radeons have been really good so far. Power-wise, I haven't measured it recently, but it ranges from sort of 800 or so right at the top, down to about 200 to 100 on the sand bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's any issues with power there then.
No, I've actually had to dial things back a little bit.
Yes.
Because I've just found that I think I was really just burning some of the tips of the corals and things.
Yeah, yep.
So, and I guess that's one of the things I've come to learn is that early on, I was really concentrating on getting the highest light output available.
Sure.
But I don't think that's the most important parameter. There's probably lots of others that are even more important. So yeah, that's just a personal lesson that I've learned about lighting of late.
Absolutely, and I got to say the spectrum you got in the tank looks absolutely gorgeous for everything in there, from the SPS to the LPS to the softies to the fish. The Radeons are really bringing the colours of everything out very, very nicely. Yeah,
I know you go pro or you go the blue. I went with the blue because I like the look of the slightly bluer tank.
Yes.
I think I went with the AB schedule, just pre-programmed out of the box.
Sure.
But I run a slightly longer photo period because otherwise I won't get to see the tank.
Yep.
And then, yeah, at the bookends of the day, they run a slightly bluer schedule. Which, yeah, like after work, when I get home, it's sort of at the spectrum I like. I can enjoy it for a little bit before I go upstairs, have dinner, etc. But yeah, look, the lighting, Radions, highly recommend them. I know there's G6 available too now.
Yes.
But yeah, if I was going again, I'd probably go Radions again still.
Yeah.
And the future lighting plans for the rack here is that I probably want to add a couple of the AI blade fixtures.
For sure,
just maybe for some supplemental lighting. Again, it's more just a see how it looks kind of thing, not that it really needs it.
Doesn't need it, but I guess you're going to find over the coming months and years that these colonies in here, and these are already big colonies, are only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting some extra angles and some extra coverage won't hurt. And
exactly. I think there's a bracket where you can angle them sideways. So just trying to get through to the corners and the shading issue.
Definitely.
Hopefully that will help with that.
I think that'd work well. Yeah. But you've got some time up your sleeve before that's necessary when you're getting that kind of power, and I don't see anything struggling for light in there right now, so that's awesome. Yeah. And before we move into any equipment inside the tank, I also know you've got a nice little auto feeder just up there on the rail as well. Yeah,
the auto feeder, just a battery operated.
Yep.
You know, El Cheapo.
That's all right.
But that's great, works really well. I just feed pellets through there. It's had numerous positions through the tank.
Yes.
But that position tends to work well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, the lighting fixture talked about.
That brings us down to this beautiful lid that you've got.
Yes, we should talk about the custom lid.
We should.
Yeah,
it looks fantastic.
Yeah, while not cheap, from NVS Aquatics, Nick from NVS Aquatics.
Yep.
While not cheap, I'd consider it an investment, but you know, there was a lot of swearing and just frustration with the old lid, especially with a tank of this size, because it becomes really hard to maneuver it. I think I've got it sitting back there somewhere.
It's been relegated off to a cupboard up there somewhere.
Yeah, but you know, this is a two-piece design, so you can sort of, you know, lift off.
Yeah, nice.
And then you can work on one part at a time, so it makes it a lot less you know, obtrusive. And then I sort of did some custom doors and things like that, but highly recommended. But I believe some of the newer Cade systems now come with that as a standard component, I believe, so or you can purchase it.
It was a prototype. I think I assume it's going to go to fruition because the feedback was very favourable. But
hopefully it does, because I do think customers would like
I think especially with as beautiful as the rimless design is. I mean, as expensive as these custom lids are, it's really only one or two fish that jump, and you've paid for the lid already. So, and without any sort of rim on the tank, they jump easily.
They do,
Plus, I mean, it can also cut back on splashes and stuff. But they're a nice looking lid. So nice.
Yeah, and I found that too. It has cut back on the splashes. And then the lid gets a bit of salt creep, but I just wash it down with the hose and it comes up looking up new. So
that's it. And
I'd recommend it as an investment.
It does look brand new. Like, it looks like it's a week old. It's it's pristine. You've done well. Now,
all right. So should we talk about the rest of the equipment? Maybe I'll take you through the sump.
Please do. Or before you get into the sump, in-tank flow. I can see pumps all around everywhere.
So with the Peninsula, obviously flow was always going to be a challenge.
Always a challenge with Peninsula.
So I went with two MP60s.
Yes.
On the back wall. They're a larger wave maker, but I chose them there because, again, they're not very obtrusive.
Yep.
Again, I've kind of always had Vortex.
Yes.
And again, they're expensive, especially the MP60s.
The 60s are definitely not a cheap pump.
And they've gone up in price again. But they're absolutely bulletproof. I think I cleaned them very recently.
Yes.
But before that, the last time I'd cleaned them was probably 6 or 8 months ago.
Okay.
So they keep on going. You know, it's just, they're relatively bulletproof.
And they're easy to clean too, even though you let it go for that long.
Easy. I mean, if you have some spare wet sides and things, then you can just swap and go, and you can leave the rest. But I normally just give it a soak in some citric acid, and I normally take out one of the other wave makers, which just agitates the flow. By the time you then just need a little bit of a scrub, and they're done, good to go.
Exactly. Very, very nice. And then apart from the 60s on the back wall, you've got some some Neros around the.
So originally I started off on the back wall here with some gyres. I had some 350 gyres from my old system.
Yes.
And we all know that while they're a great wave maker, they sort of slow down. They need a lot more regular cleaning.
They do, yes.
So I had 2 of them here for a while, which were producing great flow, but it's just the cleaning, and there were snails getting in there. So I wanted to upgrade that to something else.
Yes.
I was going to go with 2 more Vortex again, but they were going to be a bit, because this viewing panel here is an important one. I didn't really want them, sticking on the glass here.
For sure.
Also, lesson learned with the Vortex, especially the MP60s.
Yes.
You got to attach them like really, really well.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I had a terrible accident, and one of them actually fell down like a week after getting it.
Oh no.
It all worked out in the end. But yeah, just another thing, I didn't want people walking past or accidentally knocking it.
Yeah,
I know they come with the little stick-on things.
Yeah, it's not enough.
But the glue's come off.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
with the other ones, I've like zip tied them on just to make sure that doesn't happen again.
They're not coming off. Yeah. And as you say, this is the sort of the high traffic end of the tank, and those big MP60 dry sides there would they'd be just prime for the knocking there.
Also, because this panel does, like all the panels get, when they clean the glass with algae and stuff, you want something that you can sort of move out of the way easily.
Yep.
So this ticks the boxes with that very well because it's small. It's like Nero 7s on this end.
Yes.
They put out a ton of flow, and when you compare the flow with the cost of that wave maker, I think it's hard to beat that.
I agree. The Nero pumps and the AI blades, I think, are two really good value products that are high quality and low cost that, I think are... And I mean, this video is not sponsored by AI in any sort of slightest thing, but they have done really well with those two products in particular. I'll be the first to say I don't like their other fixtures. I don't like their AI Hydras and things, but the blades and the Neros, I think, are great products.
No, absolutely. Again, we said easy to clean.
Yep.
These snail guards have been good. I haven't had any fish go through there or anything like that.
Yep.
But they're small. They don't take too much space in the tank.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of Nero 5s. I had the Nero 5s first.
Yes.
Just to give a bit of cross flow because, again, being a Peninsula, it's hard to get, that type of flow all the way through the system.
For sure.
I toyed with the idea of having another gyre, in the weir part of it, but then the magnet has to be on the inside. And again, it wasn't going to look as much. So I don't think there are issues with flow, although I do run the wave makers at 90% really, all of them.
Sure.
But they oscillate between random flow patterns, so they're not 90% all the time.
Yes.
But this tends to work for now. Probably flow's not super high on the list of things to chuck in here anytime soon.
No, it looks great. It's definitely, it works well. You've got flow from all angles, and it's not too obtrusive. Like it's always a challenge in a Peninsula system where you've got 3 visible angles to get something that works without without like drilling the base and putting a closed loop or something in there.
Exactly. I mean, if you can make the closed loop thing work well, that would be great. But then you got to commit to something like 4 or 5 vectors and the servicing and all of that. And
you've also got to sleep with one eye open. Every time you hear a noise, you wonder whether it's the base of the tank cracked or.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think flow-wise, Vectras and AR primes are great wave makers, and they all integrate with Mobius as well. So
nice.
There's one interface which makes it easy to handle. So yeah, I'm really happy with the wave makers, especially the MP60s.
Yes.
And if I was to change the Nero 7s, I'd probably go MP60s, but I don't think there's a need for it right now. No,
definitely not. No, very nice. Well, continue the run of the equipment. Take us through.
Well, maybe we'll go through the sump first.
Yep.
And then we can go from there. Actually, I'll run through the controller. So I run a GHL Profilux.
Yes.
Profilux 4.
Yep.
When I was looking at the different options, obviously we looked at the Apex, which is the main other competitor. But I ended up going for the Profilux because it's really stable. Once it's set, it works brilliantly. There were some very minor teething issues early on in setting it up. The Wi-Fi and connectivity is not the greatest.
Sure.
But since that time, it's been absolutely fantastic. No issues with that. So I'm really happy with that. And I probably will expand on the GHL products in the future, although I run a bit of a hybrid things, which we can look at. But the main thing I run the controller for is temperature control, which controls my heaters.
Yep.
The heater runs on 2 Shago titanium 300 watt heaters.
Yeah.
They're connected to.
They've got that control.
Fresh by Design has a control anyway.
Yeah.
I forget the name. So that's set at a preset level to give some redundancy.
Yes.
And then it's also controlled by the controller as well. So there's like 2 levels of redundancy there as well.
Yep. Very nice.
There's a pH probe. In here as well, which is linked to the calcium reactor. So we can talk about that later, but this controls the calcium reactor.
Yep.
And there's also some other functionality built into that. All the ATO works on that as well.
Okay, nice.
So by the time you kind of look at the cost of the controller and then all the other add-ons, the cost part sort of works out.
Yes.
Because if I had a separate ATO, which I was running originally,
yes.
but then I looked at combining as many systems into this.
Yep.
But for me, the biggest reason to go with the computer was a skimmer shut-off. So it's a small thing, but just having a float valve in the skimmer lid,
yes.
which I'll go through that now.
Yeah, show us.
So if you come through, you can have a look at the sump. Just knowing that the sump's not going to overflow. We've all had that happen so many times before.
Absolutely.
But that works really well. So the water comes down the weir. The weir's been really good. It's silent, so again, testament to Cade's design on that.
Yeah.
Originally, this was meant to be the filter sock chamber, which I ran filter socks for about a year.
Yes.
No issues with that. I guess, cleaned it out regularly, but the reef mat was due to come out. And again, highly recommend the reef mat. This one's a 1200, so the biggest unit.
Okay.
And I know there's been some questions on how people plumb in these reef mats, but and I think people sometimes take out the baffles and things. I chose not to do that.
Yep.
I just chose to keep the baffles there, and that just ends up being a separate chamber. I had plans to run reactors in here as well.
Yes.
But I haven't had the need for that so far. So
you've just redirected flow into it?
Yes, so it comes with this black vinyl tubing.
Yep. Yes, I see. Yep. So you've just managed to
snake it
grab
around
onto the bottom of the drain and then into the weir. Or into the filter roller.
It works fine. I think this orientation works really well. I had plans to drill a small hole here so I can run the tubing through this back panel there, and I might get around to doing that. I mean, the sump, it's functional. It could be tidied up a little bit, I suppose, but works fine. I still think this baffle chamber is still useful for reactors. And the overflow drain still goes in there, so I might even put some filter socks back in there, to be honest. But the roller mat takes care of most of it, which again, highly recommend that.
Sure thing.
The reef mat's been awesome. It's a good product. I don't have experience with Clara C or any of those other earlier products, but I've had no issues with the reef mat.
No. Red Sea, I mean, people often compare Red Sea to Apple in that maybe they're not as innovative as they seem to suggest they are, but they do take products that have been pioneered by others, refine them to a good working level, and then release them. And look, there's no shade in saying that. I'm an Apple fanboy, so I'm not having a dig at Red Sea by any stretch of the imagination. They make some things that are already out there work really, really well.
Yeah, look, the design of this particular product is, you can take it apart, clean it, put it back together again. It's highly serviceable, multiple areas of installation. So I think they really knocked it out of the park with this one.
Yeah, nice.
So nice. I think that's a great product. Also, the red matches the aesthetic with the rest of the tank. So I figured it goes together. Yeah, we know as reef keepers, we all have a bit of OCD. So
for sure.
Sometimes that's a difference in choosing a product or not. So originally I believe that this chamber was going to be like a refugium. I think that's how Cade had designed it with a baffle in there. But the plan was to put the skimmer. I think that's a Sea Torch 200 or 250 beast.
Yep.
220 actually. 220 beast.
So
Dave from Deer Park kindly, I purchased that through him.
Yes.
As with much of the gear in this setup, but highly recommend that skimmer. Absolutely bulletproof. Build quality is amazing.
They make really nice equipment, Sea Torch,
Yeah, I haven't owned any European, like German branded skimmers, like forget the names of some of those German ones, Royal exclusive. But this, I don't think you can really get better than this for the cost as well.
I don't know if it's a running joke or if there's truth to the joke, but the early joke was that Sea Torch was a Royal exclusive knockoff. And then from maybe a year or two inwards in their early days after that, some would argue that their quality has surpassed Royal exclusive.
Wow,
now, I'm sure people out there will tell me that's complete rubbish, and that's totally fine. But what I can tell you is, for something that's considerably cheaper, it's not the cheapest thing on the market by any stretch of the imagination, but it's, here in Australia at least, cheaper than Royal Exclusive.
Yeah.
And the quality is just incredible.
I think the screws are like titanium screws, like the packaging, the way it comes in the box.
Absolutely,
it's just...
It's, first class product.
Yeah, the purchasing experience on these products, and for the cost, again, when you look at the value component, it's just amazing. So,
no, beautiful.
Look, the skimmer pulls out a fair bit of stuff.
Yes.
And I think it does form a core part of the filtration.
Of course.
As well as aeration as well. I haven't found the need to run like a CO2 scrubber or anything like that through it. Again, just again with another ethos part of the filtration, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Sure.
And I found the more I complicate it, the more areas there are to mess up. So, you know, that's the first, there's mechanical filtration, and then there's a protein skimmer. And I guess the next part of filtration we'll talk about is something different that I've done with this setup.
Sure.
So originally the last chamber in the Peninsula series was designed as an ATO.
Okay.
But I wanted a lot more, like a lot larger reservoir for ATO.
Yes.
So that was then going to become a redundant chamber.
Sure.
So I chose to drill that chamber.
Yeah.
And I drilled sort of 4 holes in there.
Yeah.
2 for return and 2 for the manifold goes in there. And at the moment it's been my refugium.
Wow.
Which works really well. I also use it as like a isolation part for fish.
Yes.
I had a couple of stripies in there at one point, but I also set it up as a potential frag system as well for if I wanted to use that as a fragging tank rather than have to set up a separate system. So I think that's one potential option if Cade buyers had that option of using that third chamber.
Yes.
Again, I think the ATO that I run on this is a remote ATO system.
Okay.
So I have a large IBC reservoir external on the side of the house,
sure.
and there's a peristaltic pump that just pumps the ATO in there. So I can go away for very long periods at a time, and together with the equipment that runs the tank, it sort of just looks after itself most of the time. Yeah. But I've been happy with that. I was a little bit cautious in drilling it.
I can imagine.
But I figured, look, if I can get it to work, that would work well.
Very nice.
So that's
that fuge is lit by a AI fuge light I see there, just mounted up to the upright. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I can't remember the model number for that light, but
it's all good.
works really well. Considered a few alternatives, but again, when you balance the cost compared to performance, this has been really good.
Fantastic.
My nutrients, I've never had issues with, touch wood, never had issues with phosphates and nitrates yet.
Yes.
In fact, that's probably a problem. Like I've always run nutrients that have been a little bit too low.
Sure.
So I'm focusing on getting nutrients back up. So I kind of ease off on the lighting schedule of the fuge.
That's the benefit of a fuge. You can literally dial it up or down as need be. You just turn the hours of the light on or off. And I
mean, it's not a particularly massive fuge, but I think it's not the smallest one either. So I do think it has a significant component to do with the filtration.
I'm always a big fan of removing organics rather than targeting specific parameters. Like that's going to pull just organic waste before it breaks down into nitrates and phosphates and stuff. And I think that will pull out other stuff that potentially we aren't monitoring as well.
Yeah. So no, happy with that. So you can see it's reasonably simple filtration setup.
Yeah.
And then the final part of the sample's got a whole ton of ceramic media in there.
Yes.
And I'm seeding some more just to go into the new system. So again, there's just so much volume of biological filtration there that I think that tends to work really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like this nice little dosing line holder you've got over there too.
Yeah, I think shout out to Adrian
again,
who 3D printed that. Again, there was just like quite a lot of lines to get through there. But that serves as a holder for both the ATO system, emergency overflow system, calcium reactor feeds, auto water change system. By the time you add up all the lines that go in there, there's so many. So it just keeps them nice and neat.
Neat and tidy,
Yeah, happy with that. It's great. And again, chose the aesthetic that matches with the red and white inside
the sump. It's an important part of the process.
Yeah. So I'll just share a couple of other mods that I did with this system.
Yeah, please,
I'm not sure if you can see through there, but I changed over the manifold that came with the system. Nothing wrong with the one that comes with it.
Sure.
But given that I wanted to run the last chamber as a refugium, I needed to kind of extend it over a little bit.
Yes.
So I did that, and then there's a couple of other feeds. So the first one here is for a reactor setup.
Okay, yep.
So if I need to, I connect carbon and GFO in that single reactor.
Yep, and that's just on this little pipe fitting you got there at the end there. Yep.
Yeah, well, this is actually the input part of it. I'll just unscrew the union.
Yes.
The reactors just sort of sit in here, which is That's my little LFS setup. Yeah, my little fish cupboard. But the reactors are just, again, C-torch.
C-torch, yeah.
For the win.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I'll just fill those up, screw them on as needed, and then they work well. But there hasn't been a need for that. I'm trying to get my nutrients back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've taken it
offline,
the GFO. The next one along is kind of like an acclimatation rig. So when you get the fish along, I normally just go with that and do the drip implementation and then pop
Makes
back
it easy.
in there. Yeah, it's just, in the past I used to make a mess with everything, so it makes it so easy. And I wanted to have some redundancy, so the other line I use it for a whole host of things, but most recently I'm going to connect a pipe from there just so I can just blast some of the corals. I remember seeing in a couple of your videos, I think it was Julian, he was talking about getting some flow onto the corals.
Definitely,
So
it's part of his weekly routine is to take a power head in there and just absolutely blast them.
So I was going to give that a go. So so that's part of the manifold there.
Yes.
And then also I'm a big believer in redundancy as well.
Yes.
So I have like a dual return pump system. The return pump that runs it's Ecotech Vectra L2. So I had the original one which does most of the return. And then I've got a second one that runs parts of the manifold and has redundancy. So if one goes down, I'll need to service one. Then turn a couple of handles, and the whole system can still operate.
Yeah, nice. So
without
teed in there.
And then again, there's quick connect fittings, and it's easy to access, which is the other advantage of the Peninsula and having all the doors around it.
For sure.
You can just sort of get wherever you need to get to. So that's a huge plus. It's been a joy to kind of work on the tank, rather than crawling under some space, and which I've done that before, and it wasn't the most.
Everyone who does not have a peninsula where they can access all three sides is looking at your cabinet now with the doors open all the way around, and probably cursing you because, like myself, the rest of us out there have to access from one side and reach over the sump to get to that return pump chamber or whatever it may be. So a massive benefit of the Peninsula is that access.
The access has been great, can't complain. I know Cade also, they come with some other panels that are actually, I think this part of the tank here came with a panel.
Okay.
And the most recent ones have a cutout so you can access in there a bit easier. The panel's meant to give a bit more rigidity to the cabinet. I believe when I was talking to Adam, he was saying, because they sell them across all sorts of geographical locations.
Sure.
But I chose to take the panel out. I'm not saying you can or you should, so please check with Cade with that. But again, it just gives better access because this is part of the reason why I wanted a Peninsula to get that access.
For sure.
So as you can see, it's reasonably simple filtration system. Just some mechanical and some biological filtration there.
Definitely.
With the option to dial it up with reactors and things if I needed to. But yeah, it hasn't seemed to be the case yet.
Perfect.
And I guess the last cabinet through here is just houses the calcium reactor, which is the biggest version of the, again, C-torch.
Yes.
The AC120, I think it's called. Never run a calcium reactor before, so this is my first foray into that. And yeah, really happy with it. So the other things that it houses are the reagent for the KH Guardian.
Yes.
Which is, again, a really important part of the tank. A reservoir of alkalinity solution just to top up, so that's just Aquaforest KH buffer. And also I'm also been dosing some calcium and mag as well, just because those parameters have been a little bit low.
Sure.
So I run the calcium reactor a little bit under the KH parameters that I like to.
Okay.
And then the KH Guardian tests probably 3 times a day, and then I do a little bit of fine tuning top up just to get to the target range of 8. That's my target range.
Yes.
And it seems to work well at this stage. Although I have, KH has been a little bit of a fluctuating variable for me. I had a couple of crashes because of that, unfortunately.
Sure.
So having the calcium reactor has been a little bit of a learning curve, just understanding the way the gas operates, having the valve system, etc.
Yes.
And most importantly, not running out of CO2.
Yes.
So I run an abundant supply of canisters there.
Got a few bottles there.
I got a few bottles there.
Yep.
I use gas guys. I'm not sure if anyone uses gas guys.
Yeah. Okay.
But they deliver next day.
Oh wow, nice.
Which is really important because I was going away on holiday one time and I actually ran out of gas. Yes. And I didn't realize what had happened, and it was zero just because everything was going great. And then next time I'm out of gas. So they were the only guys that can get me the gas really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's really cost effective. So I recommend those guys.
Gas guys, we'll check them out. Give them a plug, definitely.
Yeah. And then to run the calcium rector, I've gone with the Kamoa stepper pumps. They're the 36 volt versions. I always mess up the model numbers. I think that's the
X1 Pro T2.
Yeah, that's right, Pro T2.
I'm a big fan of those pumps. I run a few of them myself.
Yeah, they're a great pump. And as you know, it's they're bulletproof.
Yeah.
I actually have a few of them, and the tube lasts ages in those.
It does, yeah.
Much longer than what the manufacturer recommends.
Agreed.
And the pump on top is actually running the auto water, the ATO system as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
I had the Pro T1 before that.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe I just had a bad batch or the firmware was not quite right on that one, but this one's been absolutely bulletproof.
Yeah, okay, that's funny. That's the second one I've heard of the Pro T, just the Pro T that you set to continuous. And I run a few of them that way on a couple of my tanks that, yeah, just when the power comes on via an ATO that they just run. But I have one roofing friend down my way that we just, every now and then his would just turn on and go to manual rather than just continuous mode, and that's the second one I've now heard that does that.
Yeah, I struggled with that for a little bit. I still got the pump.
Sure.
I'll be using it in a similar capacity on a smaller setup.
Yes.
But yeah, again, these pumps are great. Highly recommend them. Really cost effective compared to the quality of product you get. Fantastic.
For sure. Yeah.
Although I do have plans to get the latest GHL stepper pumps.
Okay, yep.
So I can just integrate that with the ecosystem of the controller a bit more. Nothing wrong with how these are working.
No, no.
But again, these just give like a redundancy system for me, and I can use them in another project.
Yep, yep.
I also wanted to talk about the KH Guardian, which is, I think, amazing.
Yes.
Fantastic setup. Like I said, the tank's been going for almost 2 years now. I'm due to change the probe soon. But once that thing's been set up, it's sort of almost set and forget.
Yes, as far as an automated alkalinity tester goes, it's very, very hands-off, which is not an easy feat for something as complex as an alkalinity tester is.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I guess, a little bit daunting in terms of setting it up. It's not as user-friendly as some of the other offerings out there.
Yes.
But again, once it's up and running, it's fantastic. Also very cost-effective, reagent things easy to get. So highly recommend the KH Guardian, really happy with that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the only ones that counts the drops. Like the methodology of KH calculation on that, I think, is just a lot more bulletproof. For sure, for sure. So yeah, that completes most of the equipment. I guess a little bit more if you want to sneak behind the tank. Yeah, I did see something sneaking in behind there. Yeah, that's it's a bit of custom work there. So as you can see, with the extruded aluminium setup, there's the bar that holds the light on top. Yes. But then I was thinking how to mount this Pentair 80 watt UV sterilizer. Yes. So I considered putting it inside the cabinet, but I settled for this location because it's easier to access. It becomes quite heavy and bulky as well. For sure. So it's easy to access there in terms of changing bulbs and things like that. If it leaks, it's on the floor. So that was a handy place to mount that. So it's out of the way and not very obtrusive again. Yeah. So I think again with the Peninsula setup, the small amount of space on the back of the tank is also useful to have some gear. Yeah. Something the size of that. I mean, you need to have the tank out from the wall a little bit anyway. So making use of that space is a good use of real estate. Yeah. There's a secondary manifold that runs behind these dosing systems. Sure. Again, it was just to ease of plumbing and how things were going to set up. So I'm not sure if you can see through there, but there's a secondary manifold that goes through there, which runs to the UV sterilizer. And then it also feeds into the chiller, which is a Tico. Yes. Which has been great. Again, I've never run a chiller before, haven't had the need to, but now that I've had one on this tank, I'd do it anytime again, which they've been a great unit. So yep. I have considered getting one of those Cade caddies. Oh, yeah. So I may consider that here just so I can tidy all this other stuff up into one. Actually, there's more equipment. There's more. I was going to ask you, don't worry, I was going to let you go and then say, what about these RO lines here that just snake off? Oh yeah, so these RO lines are temporary. I'm plumbing in a secondary system, so I was just doing some testing of lines. But I was thinking more these ones over here, which you can see just Oh, these guys
they disappear into the wall. And I'm assuming they're connected to this guy right here.
They are. So again, it's a Kamoa auto water change, which is going at the time. So really quiet. I didn't even hear that going. I know in previous reviews these units have been sort of been quite loud.
Yes.
But I run it on a much lower RPM setup, which I think you covered in your video as well.
Yeah, I like to think that I had some part in making that happen. I could be absolutely blowing up my own tires. I don't know, but. When I tested a unit early on, there was no adjustment on speed. You could only just tell it how much water to move. And one of the feedback I gave was that it was quite noisy.
Oh, it is. At the default setting, it's really loud. It's totally unacceptable. The fact that it was in the garage, though, the noise wasn't an issue.
Yes.
But once you dial it down, it's...
Oh, you can't even hear it. Yeah, it's in that little cabinet there. We couldn't tell it was going.
Yeah, for an off-the-shelf system, for the cost of what it is, it's really, really good. There are some challenges plumbing this because we all prefer, you know, the 6mm RO line. So there's just challenges plumbing that, but it's been great.
Yeah.
So normally what this does is it pulls water from an IBC, just that's up the back there.
Yes.
So it's a simultaneous change of seawater in, fresh seawater, and then the outputs just discharge out.
Yes.
But I'm going to daisy chain another system into this, so hence there's a little bit of temporary stuff going on here.
Construction underway there. Yeah, nice.
What else we got here?
That is the benefit of auto water change though. When you do want to add another system to it, you can just put it in line and you're off and running.
No, so the tank was sort of built with that. Those concepts in place, and I guess now it's just easy to expand onto that. And then the second part, just bottle storage, CVE, and a few other bits and pieces. So yeah, these cabinets were part of my old system where they were mounted on the wall, which I had controls and things in there. So they were I just had them there and just tied these things up. But I don't know, maybe considering a Cade caddy, but although that might be a little bit more bulky again, I'll see how we go.
Yeah, I think what you've got there works really well. I mean, the white cabinets blend in with the back wall there, so it's not obvious that it's part of the fish tank. So I think it works quite well.
Yeah.
Show us what you got there.
So this is just an electrical cabinet.
Because
originally I had the RO system mounted in the garage and it's just cables everywhere.
Yes.
But this just neatens it up a lot, and it just
love it.
The RO fits in there perfectly.
Super tidy.
Really tidy out the way. Probably completely unnecessary, but just really appeals to the OCD.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm a big advocate of it's just as important on the things outside of the tank as it is inside the tank.
Yeah.
And I also feel like you get a little bit more leeway with the other members of your family if you can 100%. Keep the things around the house neat and tidy.
100%. And then when you change the filters, there's water everywhere in that, so it just stays here and it works really well. So
definitely.
If you're building a new house and you put it, I highly encourage you to put one of these.
Put your RO unit in an electrical cabinet up there like that.
So yeah, we chose to keep the water storage here. A couple of reasons. One, this is higher than the tanks downstairs, so gravity works in your favour. I was running pumps before, and I wanted to try and avoid that.
Definitely.
So I don't know. It's a pretty massive RO reservoir, 1,000 litres. Probably won't run out of auto water top up soon.
Definitely.
I never keep this full. I actually only keep it half or a third full.
Sure.
But I forgot to turn that off at one point. It ended up being full, so that's why it's so full. You can see I've got these covers on there just to stop algae growth as well.
Definitely. You're pretty sheltered in here beside the side of the house. You can see not a lot of light, but the more light you can lock out, the better.
Yeah, it works pretty well. These tie downs are just a bit of added security because these things are really heavy.
Yes.
So they're just strapped down just to make sure it doesn't fall on anyone.
Yes.
And the tank downstairs is for salt water.
Of course.
So there's lots of great guys that deliver salt water around. Most recently, I think Anthony's been helping out salt water.
Big shout out to Anthony.
Big shout out to Anthony. He does a really good job. And again, we tried to make this as simple as possible. So to fill this up, there's a valve and ball system going all the way down there. So the truck can just pull up, plug into the port, fill up the tank, and we're done.
Beautiful.
And the auto water change system does 1% a day.
Yep.
So it's roughly 7% in a week.
Yep. Beautiful.
So just under that 10% component amount that we all aim for. So I find that's enough just to keep things ticking over.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of an auto water change is should you need to get nutrients down a bit, you can turn that up. You can make it 10, 15, 20% if you want to.
Yes.
In a week, or if 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 Anthony's not available over Christmas, he's gone away with the family, you can dial it back and do 4% a week and save on a bit of water. So yeah, it makes life easy.
So I just sort of check the levels from here from time to time.
Yep.
And we just, there's a couple of Tunzi, just the smallest pump in there. They take barely any power, I think. I just leave them on full time.
Just let it circulate.
Yeah, just let it circulate. I haven't had any real issues with algae and things like that in the tanks because of the covers.
You got them covered, you got pumps in there, and Anthony delivers nice clean water, so can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's worked well so far. So yeah, if it's applicable and you can have a reservoir, the IBCs are pretty cheap. I think you pick these were like $50 each.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was a no-brainer.
Definitely, definitely. And then for those who don't know, your tank is literally just down there.
Just down there, yeah.
So yeah, that's why when you say gravity is your friend, it really is. And
literally turn on the tap and you got salt water there. So if you needed to do a little top up, or you need to fill a bag for someone, or you needed to wash something down with the RO, it's there. All these things just make it really easy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come over and say, oh, it's in the garage, you should have it upstairs. But to be honest, I really like it where it is.
No, it's great.
I put the tunes up, and it's a lot of the man cave, bit of relaxation in there, and I don't mind if I get a bit of water on the floor.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'd be really paranoid about getting the salt water up through the house.
For sure. No, it has many benefits. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Now, we've been dancing around it. You got to talk about what's inside the glass box. You got to tell us about all your livestock.
Oh, the coral and fish. Yeah, sure.
There's plenty to cover in here, and I know everyone watching this video has kind of seen me walk around this tank a few times. Tell us, where do you want to start? You want to start with fish or coral?
No, we'll start with the fish.
All right, let's do it.
So, the tangs I've had for quite some time. The blue tangs, I've had him since 2016.
Yes.
So yeah, he's probably one of my favourite fish in the tank. I think he's gorgeous. I think for a lot of people, when they see a blue tang under nice lights, it's just such a striking blue. It's just mesmerising. So he's probably one of my favourite fish.
Definitely.
The yellow tang's been in there for a very, very long time. It was originally part of a family of 4 yellow tangs I had in there. This was back when yellow tangs were a lot more available and more cost effective. But
he's a beautiful specimen too.
He seems very healthy and
lovely colour. Fins are all perfect, and
he's been nice. I since sold on some of the others, and I just didn't have the room, but I decided to keep one.
Yeah.
This guy here, shoulder tang, right, if I'm mistaken?
Yeah, orange shoulder tang,
Yeah, so I got him from Deer Park Aquarium, where I get pretty much 99% of my fish from.
Yes.
Just always really healthy fish from Dave, and great advice. And the main reason I got him was he was also yellow. I know he's not going to remain yellow for a long time.
Yeah, he will turn grey.
But I like the idea of that he's going to change and grow.
Yeah.
So that's him, and then the Desjardini tang as well, also one of my favourite fish. He's sort of grown, and his colours have become a lot more defined, and his pattern's a lot more defined. Really nice fish. Again, probably one of the more boss fish of the tank.
Sure.
But yeah, he's always been healthy and happy, and yeah, really like him.
Definitely.
The tank's had a few other tangs in there, but haven't had a lot of success, unfortunately, with lipstick tang, which are one of my favourite fish, but just really struggled to keep them in captivity. So I decided not to get any more of those.
Yep.
The fish all get along really well. Apart from those larger fish, there's the foxface, of course, which I got him just again to add a bit more colour. So I figured with the coral, it's hard to get yellow, so I tried to focus a bit more on yellow fish to get that blended colour palette.
Definitely to get that vibrant yellow.
Yeah.
I know a lot of corals that are considered yellow and nowhere near that yellow.
Yeah, so I think those 3 yellow fish add that yellow flash of colour.
Yes.
And then apart from those fish, I've tried to get a bit of a school of blue chromis, which I think are really underrated fish. They're really pretty fish. They school really nicely. I think there's about 8 to 10 in there at the moment.
Yep.
I do a bit of a head count once in a while. They look like they've whittled away a little bit, but they can be sort of topped up from time to time.
Of course.
And some anthias as well. I think they're Cooper anthias. And I've had a few different anthias over the years, but I find these the ones I've had most success with.
Yes.
Together with the auto feed. They don't need to be fed too often, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah, they remain healthy, and they don't tend to fight each other too much.
Excellent.
There's a trio of clowns. They're just wild caught clowns, which I really like those. My daughter says one's the mum, one's the dad, one's her. So that's sort of the family of clowns.
That's pretty cute.
I would like to get some type of coral for them to host into.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm just not super keen on putting a NEM in this mixed reef system.
Understandable.
For obvious reasons.
I'm actually impressed with the clowns at how well they stay near each other. And as I say that, they've gone to 3 ends of the tank, but my pair of clowns do spend a good part of the day just sort of bickering with each other, where these ones are hanging out together very nicely. So.
Yeah, they behave pretty well. Just all the inhabitants actually get along really, really well.
Yes.
So I'm actually about to add some more fish into this tank.
Okay.
Later today, I'll be picking up some fish from a tank shutdown. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this combination of fish, absolutely no problems.
Beautiful.
They get along really, really well. I also like some of the really smaller fish, so they're hard to get on camera. Sometimes it can be camera shy, but I really like some of the coral gobies.
Yes.
In particular, there's a couple of yellow coral gobies that I have. One's just emerged from the aquarium.
Oh, I did just see him. I'm not sure if I caught him on camera or not.
They're both in that colony. So if you go around the other side, you'll be able to.
There he goes. He's just come out there. Yep.
So I really like the coral gobies.
Yes.
They've got a lot of character, the way they just perch themselves on corals.
For sure.
There's also a green variety which lives in here somewhere. He comes out during feeding time. But yeah, he's got this weird look. You know, they've almost got that really big jaw appearance.
Definitely.
And they just look like a really interesting fish. I'd love to try and photograph him on a macro lens or something at some point, but
for sure,
I just need to get the time. Other inhabitants, I think there's a blenny in there somewhere. Again, I tried to get him for algae control, and
yes,
and yeah, he's been good. I've had numerous other fish over time that have come and gone.
Yes.
But yeah, at the moment, I'm just really trying to focus on sort of growing the corals out a little bit more. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, just before we do, there's one more fish I just noticed, the Australian stripey there.
Oh yes. So
still fairly small. He must be a relatively new addition.
Yeah, here's the second stripey I've had.
Okay.
So I put in the stripies in there because I was having a little bit of an aptasia outbreak.
Sure.
In fact, it's not a little bit, it's a pretty serious aptasia outbreak. So I had the original stripey in there,
yes,
which was, he was pretty successful at controlling it.
Sure.
And then he got quite big because all the other fish are really well fed. So I think he developed a preference to the frozen and pelleted food. But then he also developed a preference to some of my LPS as well. So he started nipping at some of my prize scollies, unfortunately, which are since recovering.
Yes.
So I moved him along and have got this guy.
Yep.
But this guy absolutely does not want to eat aptasia at all. So I'm probably going to have to trade him out for something else, or try some peppermints or something like that.
Sure,
but,
sure.
Yeah, they work really well. And they're a nice looking fish. I think they...
Yeah, they're a beautiful fish, but they can't be eating your coral, that's for sure.
No, I've got to keep a close eye on them. And they do it like really stealthily too.
Yeah.
So it's hard to catch them doing it.
Yes.
So by the time I realised the other one was nipping at corals, it was a bit late, unfortunately.
The cheeky buggers they are. I know other parts of the world, particularly my friends in the UK, often talk about how they'd love to get Australian stripies, and I said, you think you would. They're a great fish, but they can also cause
love-hate relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, love-hate relationship.
But yes, corals. We've got a few to cover in here, so
yeah. So this tank, I guess, when I first started it, I had SPS in mind.
Yes.
But of late, I feel like SPS are a little bit overrated, I think.
Okay.
So I've gone a little bit more back towards a mixed reef and LPS focus on there. I'm really liking LPS at the moment.
Yes.
But again, when the scape was done, like a lot of things are filled out now, but when the scape was originally done, I can send you some photos of the scape beforehand, but it was, with the Peninsula set up, it was sort of designed as like a main structure and then a separate structure, and then there was going to be an island for zoanthids and so forth.
Sure.
So that's just filled out a little bit more. The upper parts of the structure were going to be designed for SPS, with the idea that they would sort of branch over and cantilever over.
Okay.
So we'll probably start with this island here, which is, like, things are really grown out on this. So there's just like a blue stag there. Again, I got that from Deer Park Aquarium. That's seemingly looking quite mature these days.
It's looking beautiful,
where once the stags have that mature look, it looks really nice.
They do,
happy with that.
Definitely.
Next to that, there's a Robusta.
Yes.
He's sort of green and a little bit pink. And he's also started to take off a fair bit more. I think they have high light requirements, that's why he's fairly high up.
Yep.
There's a bubblegum digi just next to that again, the red guy. And then, one of my favourite corals has been this, it's a wild caught Millie.
Yeah.
It's a two-tone, sort of green and pink tips. But I sort of glued him on the edge and he's really started to take off.
It's doing exactly what you described before when you said you wanted them to cantilever.
Yeah,
and that's exactly
just to try and give that mature look.
Yeah, he looks great.
Happy with that. And then what I've tried to do with the corals is kind of mix the colour palette a little bit.
Yep.
So I kind of put a coral in there, sort of see where I like it, and then see where the colour fits in. So I had this green Peninsula, which it's a fairly vibrant green.
Very vibrant, yeah.
They're easy to keep, and that really started off as a frag, but I thought, oh, you know, that green might offset some of the other colours there.
Definitely.
So the idea was, when you look at this, you've got blue, you've got the red, you've got a mix, and then you've got the green, so it's sort of a well-rounded colour palette.
Yes.
And then there's the blue digi, which that's just like a weed. It's just taken off everywhere.
It does grow fairly fast.
Yeah,
the blue digi,
it's just taken off everywhere. So I'll normally prune. I need to prune all of them, actually. So if anyone wants any frags, just, hit me up. Because there's going to be a fairly serious trim happening pretty soon.
Sure thing.
So that's sort of the top of that tank, of that pinnacle. There's a bit around, actually.
You've got some more over here.
Yeah, we'll finish off with SPS and go down. So.
Sure.
There's a bird's nest colony, which I really like, bird's nest.
Yes.
So that one's sort of like a two-tone.
Yep.
And I think a little bit of it's died back here because the wave maker was really blowing into it.
Sure, yeah. You got that Nero 7 right there, so would have pushed it a little.
Yeah, so bird's nest colony, and there's a green bird's nest here, which I've grown that from a frag.
That green bird's nest is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got a really nice growth pattern to it. It's actually a little bit chunkier than a lot of other bird's nests.
Yeah.
And the colour of it's really striking.
And again, I was talking about lighting before, so I've placed him a little bit further down in the column.
Yes.
And he's obviously getting enough light, so he's pretty happy there. So rather than just have all the SPS at the top, I want to try and start shifting the SPS a little bit lower.
Yes.
Just to kind of get the rest of the corals mixed in.
Sure thing.
While we're here, we can talk about this section of the tank, which for obvious reasons doesn't get a lot of flow. But I've sort of made this the mushroom garden a little bit.
Yeah, love it.
So there's a couple of ricks in there, the orange. Again, orange is a bit of an unusual colour.
Definitely.
So
Rick Stewart's so well too.
Yeah, he's since had a couple of babies.
Lovely.
There's a new addition there, I think the OG Bounce, I think it's called.
I see him in there, yeah, beautiful.
He's a small guy, but I
grow.
managed to pick him up pretty recently. And,
beautiful.
And look forward to him growing a bit further. One of my other favourite soft corals is this sort of orange and green.
Yeah, I was going to mention that if you didn't. I was going to say that's one coral that grabbed me as soon as I looked at this tank. That, green with orange ruffles, nice bright yellow eye on it.
Yeah.
Beautiful Rhodactis.
I kind of had that back in one of my very first reef tanks.
Okay.
And like there's this nostalgia element with coral. Sometimes you have a coral, you have a piece, and then you shut that system down, but you can't get it again. Yeah. And I've got photos of that, which I took ages ago, and it was like, do anything to get. So when I saw this, I think it was down at Nature Aquariums.
Sure.
I snapped that up, and since then I've got a few different bits of that now.
Amazing.
But I think I really like the look of some of the soft coral, especially interesting looking Rhodactis.
Yeah, no, that's a stunning piece. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, so since then there's a couple of I think they're called Galaxy or. No, I can't remember all the names, but the pink speckles in there.
Yep.
I think Dave told me that the real pink one's called Stripper Lips, which I really like the name of that.
That one is a Stripper Lips. Yeah, it's actually got a little purpley blue stripe to it as well. So yep.
There's another interesting one just around the corner there. It's sort of got this pink frill with a centre on it. So look forward to that growing through a little bit more.
Yeah. It's a fluffy with, pink ring to it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so, I do like the mushroom. So this part, because not a lot of flow, ends up being the mushroom garden.
Yes.
And a little bit of the Lobo garden as well. So one of my other favourite corals is this really pink Lobo.
Pink and red Lobo.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Or two-tone pink if you prefer. Really suits that spot so nicely. It's just grown into it and looks great.
Started off as one head. I got that from Williamstown.
Yeah, wow, nice.
And it's obviously it's grown.
Yeah.
But again, I was saying I kind of prefer LPS a lot more these days, and I'm always on the lookout for interesting varieties of those.
For sure.
The other corals on here, probably there's the scrolling red Monty plate.
Yep.
I've had that I've grown the original colony from a 50 cent size coin.
Yes.
And it grew to a massive dinner plate size colony since I fragged that, and then I got rid of the big colony. But that lives on. What else? Oh, there is a bit of coral to talk about, isn't there?
You've got even more ricks over this side.
Yeah, there's this rock here with the red.
Yes.
And it came with another family. So again, that was from Dave from Deer Park.
Beautiful.
Ricks, like the look of the soft corals. They're just an interesting type of coral, aren't they?
Definitely, most definitely.
The rest of the corals on this bommy, again, this is just a wild caught, some type of acro.
Yep.
It's definitely grown a lot.
Cool placement for it there, up on that sort of pinnacle of that branch.
Sort of perched on there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've got, well, I don't know, unfortunately, fortunately, the Sakura
Sunrise Zoa taking over.
Absolutely taking over. So we've got to make sure that it looks okay there for now, but I just don't want them to take over the main rock work.
Definitely, yeah.
You can see here, I had a whole garden of the yellow ones. I had the eagle eyes, all the varieties, but the Sakura Sunrise is the dominant zoantha there. Yeah, so avoid those like the plague if you can.
Yeah, they're a pretty zoa, but yeah, they do come at a cost.
Yeah. What else? There's I think they're called Fairy Lights Monty in there that's growing.
Yes, yep.
There's some orange Pavona. There's also some purple Paciliopora in there.
Is there?
So there's a whole mix of stuff there, I guess. So moving on from that bommy, then there's, on the sand bed here, we've also got this GSP carpet here, which grows. I like the flow component of that, because I don't have a lot of flowing corals here.
Yes.
Don't have a lot of hammers or torches, but that sort of ticks that box. I've got to cut it back though, because again, I've got to keep it away from the other main bommies, because it can take over very, very quickly.
For sure.
The toadstool or the leather.
Love the toadstool, yeah.
Again, it just flows nicely. He's grown a lot lately, but I sort of have him in the middle there just because he breaks up the two SPS bommies.
Definitely does, yeah. It gives a nice bit of contrast of colour and flow there. Really nice.
This flat plateau section here is a bit of like an acclimatation area. So when I get a new coral, I'll normally just pop it on here before deciding where it's going to go to.
Sure.
So there's like a Pectinia here and another Lobo that I got from Deer Park recently. Yes. But yeah, I've got to do something about the zoanthans there, because they're just sort of taking over a little bit too much.
Doing what they do.
And then moving along to further left, again from the top, there's a pink bird's nest there, although you can't really see the pink too much because it's so high up on the light. Sure. There's another wild caught colony here which has grown massively. Definitely. It's just started to STN, as you can see, so not sure what's going on with that, but I'll probably frag that back and free up some more real estate for another colony to go there. There's another two-tone acro here, which again, that's from Deer Park. It's sort of like a mint with purple tips. Yeah. There's the Digi, the red Digi, I forget the name of that. Forest Fire Digi. Forest Fire Digi. Yep. And then just the whole interspersed mix of random acros through there. There's all sorts of acros. We'll be talking about the names for ages. Yeah. For heaps there. Yeah. And you got this nice green Monty here, sort of breaking things up. That's grown in really nicely. Yeah, I like the contrast of the colour with that Monty with other things. But this area, as you can see, is a bit green. Yes. So I'm going to try and get a bit more vibrant colour of reds. There's like that red Lobo, the orange Pavona. Yeah. So I'm trying to get a bit more through there. That red Lobo is gorgeous with the orange centre to it. Just really, really nice. Yeah, it's another pickup from Deer Park. You get some good ones, that's for sure. Yeah, so when you see something that's a bit unique, I just can't help myself sometimes. And what about this big? Is this a Duncan in the corner here? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a coral that's gone out of fashion a little bit, but I've had him since I started the tank, so I can't seem to let go of him. He's just a solid football of Duncan. I love it. Yeah, he's just... Yeah, you can't see skeleton in there anywhere. Nah, it's just all extension. He just hangs out in the corner there. Adds a bit of component. Covers the weir a little bit, so there's no good reason to get rid of him. So he's just there. No, he's beautiful. I also have this large colony of purple Paciliopora. Yeah, it's an interesting coral because it's very easy to keep. It is. But it spawned in the tank, so you can see other. So it's almost, I'd classify it as a bit of a pest, a bit of a weed. Yeah, people often don't believe me when I tell them that if you put that in your tank, you will find it growing in other spots in the tank without fragging it ever. It'll just start growing on the side of your wave maker and in the back wall like yours is here. And but I mean, it's cool. It does make it easy to frag. You can always just you can always just chip this bit off the weir and put it on a plate. But at least it's something growing on the weir, so I don't mind too much there. But I do need to free up some more real estate, so I'd probably move towards you kind of change the colour variety a little bit more. So some of the more common corals, I'll probably move them on and try and get something a bit more unique. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess that's the thing about a peninsula, right? We've got to go again now. Exactly, we've got a whole other side to look at. All right, you can start from here if you like. Sure. Yeah. So there's a bit more LPS in the corner there. Again, there's a Lobo, Sonaria as well. This Lobo's got some
real potential in there. You can see the number of colours in there with the pinks, yellows, maroons.
Yeah, I think I'd like to move him up a little bit more so he gets a bit more light on him.
Yeah, it could bring it out a bit more. Actually, that angle shows it a bit better there. It's got a number of striking colours in there that if they really saturate, it's going to be a show-stopping piece.
Yeah.
And then speaking of show-stopper, have a look at this Scully.
Yeah, he's been one of my favourite Scollies. Unfortunately, like I said, a few of my prize Scollies took a fair bit of damage recently. So you can see there was that bleeding apple, which I really hope he makes a recovery. I'm trying everything with him.
Yes.
But yeah, he was really vibrant. Again, Scollies a great coral. I really love the LPS.
Definitely.
So I'd like to get a lot of those off the sand bed up sort of on the rock somewhere.
Sure.
But yeah, you can see there's a few things on the sand. There's a few more Scollies down here.
Yes.
There was that green Peninsula.
Yeah, this is still nice and bright, that, isn't it? Contrasting so nicely against the red cap there.
Yeah, well there was a really big dinner plate sized red scroller there, which was, again, the problem is once the corals grow, then it limits the flow, there's shading.
Yep.
So yeah, just like a garden, I suppose you have to, change things up from time to time. Of course. So the whole system can work. What else we got in here? We got some zoanthids.
Yes, really nice bright zoas. What about this chalice? One of my favourites in here.
Yes.
That is stunning. A really nice piece.
Yeah, that's tended to grow really well. So because I've had some good success with that, I recently got a frag of rainbow chalice as well. Beautiful. So I'm hoping for that to grow out. It's a very, very recent addition to the tank.
Very nice.
Just acclimating there, along with some more pectinia. And a few other bits and pieces. So I'll get them off the frag rack soon.
Nice.
And onto the system somewhere. And what else to speak about here? I really like the Sunny D's. Again, an unusual combination, but that colony is sort of taken off there.
Sunny D is one of the few zoas that I actually think, like all zoas that recently get discovered and named and become available in the hobby, come in at a crazy high price per polyp, and then over time, as they multiply, their price goes down.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not a massive Zoa fan, and a lot of the Zoas that come in with these fancy names and price tags, I'm like, I wouldn't pay $5 for it.
Yep.
Sunny D's are one of the few that when they came out, I said, that is an absolutely gorgeous Zoa. I will pay your asking price for it. And now they are a lot cheaper, but they have not diminished in beauty one bit, because what a contrasting, beautiful colour that is.
It's also interesting, they've got that large polyp head.
Big, large shape,
yeah, contrasting with some of the other smaller. This is also another interesting zoa. Again, I got this from Dave at Deer Park. I can't remember the name of that, but it's just got a really interesting pattern to it. I do like different varieties of zoanthids, but we'll see how they grow.
You said there wasn't many hammers in the tank, but I've spotted one.
Yeah, well, he was part of a really large, don't want to use this toxic green, but it was a really vibrant green hammer. Again, I had that for a long time. It was the same vintage as the Duncan.
Okay, yep.
But I had an issue with Biropsis for a while.
Sure.
Is that what it's called, Biropsis?
Yep.
Yeah. So the Biropsis unfortunately affected a bit of coral as well, but here's what remains of that colony.
Yep.
It seems to be doing okay down there. The rest of it I've sort of gotten rid of. If I tried to do too much with this tank, I feel I would just fill it up too quickly. So
yeah, of course.
I had to sort of limit some of the choices now, but yeah, I do admire a lot of the hammers when I go into the fish stores. What else is in here? There's another really interesting LPS here. Large type. I think it's a logo or something.
Something like that.
Got him out the bargain bin. It was like $30 or something. I thought that was a ripper deal for that.
Showpiece. Yeah. Love it. I also love this bubble coral down here. I noticed you sending out a stinger towards the maize coral or
I think it's just returning the favour, because the maize coral also stings quite a bit.
These two have a little arm wrestle with each other. But
some of those large corals, I've had them just for a long time and I can't seem to get rid of them. Like that, again, that maize coral, it's not particularly, it's like a showstopper or anything, but yeah, he's in there, he's pretty happy.
Definitely. This Cephastria here is so well grown in. It's like full tennis ball size of Cephastria with real defined polyps on it. Yeah,
well, I had him here.
Okay.
And then you can see he's taken off there. You can see the polyps are opened up there a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's that orange and blue contrast.
Definitely,
So it looks different there under a slightly shaded light than it does.
Do love that with corals, so you can get a different appearance. I mean, these are literally inches apart. Probably 10, 11 inches apart. And this one, you see the green base of it much more, and the actual polyp extension is there, where this one doesn't have the polyp extension, but it does in another hand, because you can't actually see the base. So it's just interesting, the different growth patterns.
What I'm hoping for is either Sophastria or some of the chalices to cover this part of the sand bed where the wave makers are blowing the sand off there. So instead of struggling to keep the sand there, I figured if we can get some coral growth on there, that would be interesting.
It's good thinking. That'd be a win if we can achieve that.
And there's a few other chalices and things in there which have started to grow in nicely.
Yeah, real nice collection of chalice growing in around there.
Yeah. I particularly like this upper corner here where the SPS started to grow into each other.
Yes, yeah, gives that real natural look.
Yeah, I think that green acro is from your tank actually. There's a frag from your tank.
Yeah, it looks like one of my green stags, yep.
As well as the purple one next to it.
Yeah.
But they've all started to sort of mesh in and it just tends to give that more mature look, which...
It does.
It's...
And then, I mean, you've got things like the cap here is really fluting nice and tightly there. It's starting to grow around the bird of paradise. You got the digi growing through it, just all in, real high density acro in there. I love it.
I just decided to leave it and just see who survives out of it, basically. And again, try not to put the hands in the tank too much.
Just let nature do its thing.
Just let nature do its thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it looks ridiculous. I also love how I was noticing then when the flow kicks up, things like this Lobo up here on the rock, just has a nice little jiggle to it. And you can just start to see it doing now, and even the Zoa colony down here, the Sunny D's, you see there, they just get a little wiggle to them, almost like a little hammer. Just a perfect amount of flow in there for them, not to be upset, but just dance around a little bit, which is super cool.
I think that covers the coral in the system. But yeah, the Black Friday sales were on recently, so I've still got a few frags and things to collect. So
yeah, okay, got a few more additions, and I brought an addition up for you today as well.
Yeah. So there's never an end, is there?
that's the game.
Yeah, but no, it's still rewarding. It has its challenges and its frustrations, but you know it's still rewarding when things work.
Of course.
So I think in summary, you'd probably call it a mixed reef system, I guess.
Absolutely, it's got SPS, LPS, and softies.
Yeah, I think this view from here is probably my favourite view of the tank, looking like because of the width component of it.
Absolutely.
So you can see down the full depth of the tank and the sort of multiple layers of corals through there.
And you see the fish swimming down each side there, a real splash of colour from both sides. And yeah, one step to the right, you can see the bombies with all the colours there, and then one step back to the left, and you got a whole different view of the tank, which is super, super cool. It's just not possible with anything other than a Peninsula or a system set up in the middle of a room that you can walk around all four sides.
Yeah, I think, again, one of the unique components about a Peninsula or like a wall divider type of setup. So in effect, it's kind of like a 12-foot tank because you've got the two viewable sides.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think if I was going to do another tank, I'd definitely do another Peninsula, hands down. I really like the look of the Peninsulas.
Yeah, if you've got the space to put it where you can have it out there, then yeah, by all means, it gives you so much more real estate to work with. It does pose a number of challenges, as we've touched on with the flow and things, but no, it all works a treat.
Look, I think these water leak alarms are really handy. So I've got a whole bunch of these just in cabinets and just sort of under the tank.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just a simple sensor mechanism. When they complete the circuit with water, they sort of go off. But yeah, you heard it there.
Yeah, nice. Just in case, you know, you're going to hear that anywhere in the house, but if the disaster should occur, at least you're going to find out ASAP.
Yes, so that's alerted me a few times.
Perfect.
The other great thing is just having the food right here.
Yeah, so nice.
We've got the supply of all the frozen food.
Yep.
I feed 7 cubes a day at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Just because I'm trying to get my nutrients up.
Yes. Speaking of nutrients, roughly what sort of parameters do you run on the system?
So KH I aim for roughly about 8. Yes. That's what it's targeted for.
Sure.
Phosphates and nitrates have always just measured at pretty much 0.
Yes.
Ideally phosphate, 0.01 would be good.
Yep.
So aiming to get that up a little bit more. Calcium's always run a little bit low, so I'm trying to get that up as well. That's been dosing a little bit extra. Calcium's running at just under 400, so I like to get that up as well.
Okay.
I normally do ICP tests every 3 to 4 months.
Yep.
The most recent test, everything came back really good, except for calcium, which is a bit low. So I'm focusing on calcium. Magnesium about 1300. The rest of it's all. I can give you a copy of the ICP if you want.
Yeah, no trouble. It's all good. I can put it on screen for everyone to check out now. Yeah. But it's one of those things, you're not running any sort of wild mythology where, you know, you want to run, you know, potassium through the roof or something? You're following a pretty much a natural saltwater level?
Yeah, I do dose trace elements.
Sure.
So again, they're just I keep them refrigerated. So Coral Essentials A, B, C.
Yes.
Grow and Amino.
Yep.
So again, just daily regimen of that through here, and that seems to keep everything really good.
Yep.
So things like iodine and a lot of those traces, according to the ICP, are within the recommended range.
Beautiful.
So I haven't found a need to run anything extra.
Perfect.
But I'd like to do a bit more research on, you know, alternate methodology of things. Although, again, keep it simple.
I would suggest you don't need to. The growth and colour you've got in here would suggest that the process you're following is spot on, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. So regarding testing as well, I go to my local fish shop, which is Deer Park.
Yep.
And I try and do the spin test.
Yes.
Once a week. I think that's so convenient.
Yeah.
Also gives an excuse to go down to the fish shop. I do have the range of Hana testers as well.
Yes.
But I think, as we know, the Hana test is a little bit questionable.
Sure.
Especially the magnesium. So I stopped using that.
Yes.
And calcium just a bit hard to do. So that's a bit hit and miss. But I'll do ALK and low range nitrate and phosphate as well.
Yep.
So that ends up being handy if I need to have a quick test.
Beautiful.
The other thing I test would be salinity.
Yes.
As frequently as possible. So I have the digital refractometer, which I highly recommend these.
Yeah, the great unit.
I've gone through the normal optical unit as well, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but this is just a lot more accurate.
Yes.
And I think Hana makes a conductivity version as well. But although I've got that unit too, I probably would recommend this as a better.
It is an expensive choice, but it works well, and
Yeah, so I mean the bench is set up well here just to do the tests.
Yeah.
So I can do that from time to time.
All right, so you've expanded out to another system. Can you walk us through the plans with this tank here?
Yeah, so this is the Christmas setup system for this Christmas, I suppose, Christmas present to myself.
Nice.
So yeah, I had the opportunity to purchase this Cade 500N or Nano.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just going to be the perfect fit for the tank upstairs at the breakfast bar, so we could enjoy more fishy activities as a family. So yeah, look, this tank fit really well here, and it's just, I guess, a smaller version of the tank downstairs.
Yep.
So I'll run you through the equipment again. So for top down, we've got, again, it's a Radeon XR15. This one's a G6. Blue again. Yep. Came with this nifty little shade.
Oh, nice.
Just from another reefer. So I mounted it with the RMS light system this time, just because that was the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
And then flow in the tank's going to be 2 MP10s. Again, you can see I'm a fan of the Vectras.
Absolutely.
So I was considering the AI Nero 3.
Yep.
But look, these became available for pretty much the same price, and I just went with the Vectras again because I'm familiar with it.
Yep.
The one on the back wall is mounted in the RO reservoir system. Work? Yeah, it just fit perfectly in there. So because the idea is to keep it really, really minimal.
Yes.
And the second one, well, I'm not sure whether we really need it for now, but the idea is it's going to be either in the corner, just to give a lot of cross flow. This system's going to be a bare bottom system, as opposed to the larger system. And you can see the rock work. So this rock work is from Real Reef, I think Real Reef Art, I think it's called. I can't remember the exact name of it. But fantastic. It was really, really good. I purchased the pre-made bonsai system. They all clicks together. And then I add a few more additions onto that. But although it's a little bit expensive, the rock is of really high quality. It comes in a really nice structure, which is exactly what I wanted it to look like.
Fills that space perfectly. And as you say, it actually has little tube and socket connectors on it, so you can actually remove a piece. If you need to mount a coral or something, or you need to take it off to dip it or something. And
it comes with this really good aquascaping glue, probably the best that I've used. So it's just really the super glue, and then you apply the accelerant, which pretty much the stick sets in. It's so strong.
Yeah, beautiful.
So even a little bit of glue holds that together really, really well.
Fantastic.
Inside the system itself, it's just gotten wet, as you can see. So the water change water from the old tanks going into here.
Very nice.
And then soon I'll fill up the main system and we'll go from there.
Beautiful.
Trying to run minimal equipment on here because it's sharing water from the system downstairs.
Yes.
So just again a Vectra S2,
Yep.
which is providing the return,
Yes.
just to keep the water ticking over. There'll be a heater in there. There'll be some ceramic filtration, no other filtration. I'll probably keep the filter sock.
Yep.
I know Red Sea has a smaller reef mat coming out soon, but whether or not that's needed, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
So the 3 tubing lines, one's water in, one's going to be water out, and the other one's just an RO top up, again, going back to the original reservoir.
Beautiful.
We talked about the Kamoa Pro T1, I think it is.
Yes.
So that's how that's going to run.
Beautiful.
So that's that.
Very nice system. And there's a plan for stocking on this system?
This system is, well, it was set up as, you know, my daughter's reef tank.
Sure.
So I think she'll decide what's mainly going to go in there.
Yeah,
awesome. we can go shopping with the tank downstairs and get some frags from there. But I'm thinking maybe, you know, she likes clownfish, maybe that.
Of course.
And we'll just see how we go. Trying to keep this system as simple as possible.
Yeah, nice.
Because the heating and cooling requirements up here are going to be a little bit more challenging.
Sure.
The last component, I guess, is the Cade's got this fantastic cable management system. So the idea was to keep it really neat.
Beautiful. Yeah, sensational system. No, that's really cool. I love that you've managed to get a system that you and your daughter can share together, and just keep that next generation of reefer really involved. And she's going to have a lot of fun picking fish and getting to learn all sorts of things about this system, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, so we'll see this grow out, and I guess it just gives you opportunity to enjoy the tank upstairs as well as downstairs. So,
definitely.
Yeah, get the whole family involved is the idea.
Nice one, I like it.
Not at all. But I guess the idea of this was, I used to live in Cairns in far north Queensland.
Yeah, nice.
I really enjoy going to the reef, whether it's spearfishing, diving, snorkeling. So this is kind of like your own slice of the reef at home.
You bet.
And it just gives that, I'm sure with all of the reefing community, it's sort of that bit of relaxation, spirituality, meditation, whatever you want to call it. But you can't help but feel a bit more relaxed after work, come home, feed the fish, spend about 20 minutes down here before going upstairs. And it just sort of, it makes it all worthwhile, I think.
Absolutely. You got to have something to look forward to when you go to work, you're having a tough day and you're like, I just can't wait to either get that new fish, that new coral, new bit of gear, or even just get home and just see how things are growing out. It's something about the hobby that, as you say, does get you in touch with nature, and is just something that's really difficult to replace with anything else. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, this has been awesome. I really have enjoyed having a look at this system. I don't get the opportunity to see a heck of a lot of peninsulas, and I definitely don't get to see this many peninsulas that are this well grown in and really well planned out. There's some really cool additions on this system that I think all the viewers out there are going to find a couple of tips or tricks that's going to make their reefing either a bit easier or a bit better, and will also no doubt inspire a whole new generation of reefers to bite the bullet on the peninsula and go for something that looks as incredible as this. So I can't thank you enough for making it possible for me to come up and film. I know we've been talking about it for a number of months now, but we've finally got the opportunity to get up here and mic you up and go through this tank. So just want to say a big thanks for letting me film it and share it with the world.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming out and making it possible. Again, I'm humbled that you'd consider being here, and I look forward to maybe having you back in maybe 6 to 10 months' time. And,
yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I think the tank's really. I'd like you to take off a little bit more, and keen to share some of the more later developments with it soon.
That'd be awesome. Can't wait. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys, there you have it. What an incredible peninsula system that was. I cannot thank Shan enough for making it possible for me to come up there and film this system. We have been talking about it for many, many months, but finally I got the opportunity and our calendars aligned, and I was able to get up there and take a good part of his Sunday filming the tank so I could share it with all of you guys at home. So thank you to Shan, thank you to all of the viewers, and of course, a massive, massive thank you to all of my channel members who pitch in a couple of dollars each month to make this this channel possible. All of their names will be on screen now while we check out some juicy B-roll of this beautiful Cade Peninsula system that Shan has been working on for, well, I guess this system's a couple years old, but a lot of that infrastructure and livestock have transferred from his previous system, which does also explain how a system can look that good in that short of a time frame. But other than that, guys, I will probably wrap things up there. I do still have some more footage to come, including a really cool video from the guys at Dreams Plus that I should bring out next weekend, although we'll see what comes up during the week. I may find another tank tour to film and share with you guys soon, but the Dreams Plus video is one you do not want to miss because it does just have some really unique perspectives into some of the filtration and equipment we run on our reef tanks, and I'm always super curious to see new approaches because in this hobby we do tend to get a little bit caught up in monkey see, monkey do, and copying the process over and over and over. When someone comes up with something new and it revolutionizes the space, we all blow our minds, and I guarantee you that video will do that. So stay tuned for that one shortly, which is a perfect segue as a reminder to say if you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please consider doing so. It takes 2 seconds of your time, costs no money whatsoever. Hit that subscribe button in the bottom corner. If you tick the little bell, that will also give you a notification when a new video is out, like that Dreams Plus one, so you don't miss any of the content here. Other than that, guys, I think I will wrap things up there. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. You got any questions, comments, feedback from myself or Shan, please do pop it in the comment section below because I do personally reply to each and every comment there, so it is the best way to get hold of me. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Until next time, stay safe and keep reefing. Cheers, guys. Bye.